Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inkwell Academy. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, life coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Kate Key. Dr. Kate Key is a certified CBT life coach, the founder and director of Taught Well Simplified Ed, and the author of The Emotional Reset. As a Josh Talk speaker, Dr. Kate Key inspires personal growth through writing, coaching, and speaking, helping individuals build mental resilience. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Kate Key.
Hi, it's my pleasure to join. Thank you for inviting me here.
Of course, it's a pleasure having you. And today I want to talk all about writing and publishing with you. So, in the emotional reset, it combines psychology, neuroscience, and spirituality. How did you balance these three topics into one book? And how would you recommend that an author could do the same?
So the way I look at it is, they seem to be three different, categories. But the way I see it is that I can't separate them. They're all interconnected. So to me, they were always connected to each other. And the more I worked on this book, the more I realized that uh, in psychology, psychology explains how we behave and how we think and how it affects our actions. And what neuroscience does, it just goes a little deeper into it. It goes into the processes of the brain, how the brain processes your emotions. And spirituality is all about how you can use these practices like meditation. And if you think about it, even in cognitive behavior therapy, it is now recommended that you should meditate every day. So you see, they're all interconnected already. And, coming from India, where spirituality is it is very prominent. And we think that meditation and mindfulness would be different from the basic psychology, or we might think that they don't have a scientific background, but now it has been proven in science also, and there are a lot of studies how it reduces anxiety, depression, and all sorts of mental health issues. So that's why I wanted to integrate all these three into one book so that it would be like a holistic approach to emotional well-being.
That's a great point and great input for our authors because I think not all the time when you're writing a self-help book, you think of all of those different topics to combine. And could you share your approach to structuring a self-help book like this that's both engaging and actionable?
Yeah, so when I started to write this book, I asked myself a few questions. And one of them was, how can I structure it in a way that would be easy to follow and remember? And it should be like they should know what tools they can use. So how can I make sure that they can actually use the knowledge in the form of practical exercises? So I broke the book into steps. The reason for that was that you can really know if you're making progress or not if there are steps involved. Each one tackles a specific part in the emotional healing journey. So I wanted it to be a step-by-step process. And initially, it was a 10-step process. But then I thought it would be really overwhelming for a person who needs help in this mental health and emotional well-being. It would be already overwhelming. And so I decided to break it down into 5 steps that start with an R. The reason was that it would be easy to remember if it starts with R, like research, reframe, rebuild. So that's why I wanted to make it easy to remember. And I also included lots of illustrations in this, which I have hand drawn. Some of them I use some pie charts, some tables to make things easy to understand. I also, to make it more engaging, I used my own personal stories and stories of people that I work with so that the person could really think that this is relatable. Okay, this is what I feel. The author also feels it, and the author has gone through these challenges. So that would make the book really engaging if you could include personal stories. And I've also included some philosophical stories at the beginning of some chapters. Nonfiction can be a little boring to read. So when we could inject an element of fiction, that would make that easy to make a point, and that point gets remembered. It makes it engaging, I think, this way.
Right, I would definitely agree. I think that's great insight on how to just cater to more of a diverse audience with the pictures and the personal stories, and also making it not too, it's filled with information, but it's not too complicated in the sense that you broke it more down into 5 parts. Now, how would you say that you ensure your writing resonates with a more diverse audience, especially in the self-help genre?
So when I started writing, one of the things I wanted was that people from all walks of life should be able to understand this book, no matter their education level. If you can understand basic English, you can understand the book. And even though I've used terms like cognitive distortions and neuroplasticity, so it might feel overwhelming at first, but the reason I mentioned them is I think that anyone who has a human mind should know all these things, the basic psychological knowledge, because you are using that mind every day. And you should know how it works and how you can make it work in your favor. So it's like having a manual for this human body. So that's why I wanted everyone to understand it. And I also used a very simple language for this to make it easy to understand. So that is one of my strengths, that I can break down complex concepts into easy to understand things. One thing I kept in mind was that everyone's healing journey is unique. So I didn't want them to feel like I'm telling them that this is the way to feel better. You have to do this only. So I presented with a lot of options and a variety of tools to choose from. And it's like, you're giving them a menu, you decide what works for you, and then do it consistently, whatever you choose.
Right, that's a great point. And what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you have for authors that are currently going through the publishing process?
Yeah, actually, where do I start? This was such an overwhelming thing for me as a first time author and as someone who self published a book. And so I think that publishing a book is not a marathon, it's a sprint. It takes time and patience. And one thing I wish I had done earlier is that I should have built an audience before I presented the book to people. So that
Mm.
helps you a lot. If you could work on your Instagram, you can connect with your readers, you can take their feedback, and you can also choose topics which they like if they're liking certain kinds of posts, then you can structure your book around them. And if you already have an audience, it gives you a lot of boost even for traditional publishers to choose you. And I'm going to give you a great news in this podcast, actually something that happened just yesterday, that a traditional publisher chose my book to publish it under their banner. So it was a huge thing for me as a self-published author, and I would like to give some tips in that area for new aspiring authors. So, one thing I've seen in this publishing industry, the belief is rampant that you need to be famous or you need to have a high net worth in order for traditional publishers to pick you. So, I think that belief is not true. And whatever you believe in actually comes true. So, what happens is I've talked to many authors and they don't even email their manuscripts to publishers because they already know that they are going to get rejected, and so they don't want that reject they want don't want to face that rejection. So what I would advise is and something I did is I googled up all the publishers in India, almost top 100 publishers. I took their email ID and I emailed my manuscript to all of them, whatever they required. And in this process, I've seen that they mostly want 4 documents. They want your synopsis, they don't want your complete manuscript, but at least the first 3 sample chapters. They want to know the target audience. They want you to do market analysis, how your book is going to perform. And so while doing that, I also understood it myself, how my book will fit in this market. Because as an entrepreneur, I came to know that even publishing a book is like building a business. It's your book that is the product now. So you have to understand all these things, that it's not just about writing. You have to know your market size, if it fits. Like if you're writing for Gen Z, you want to write in a language that is simple enough for them to understand. So in that way, you have to give relatable examples that would resonate with them. So that's why you need to know your audience. And when you do all these things for publishers, they will help you as a self publisher also. So I think the new authors should take a chance here and should email to traditional publishers. Someone might think that your book resonates with them. And that's what happened with me yesterday, that I signed a contract with a good publisher here.
Well, that's fantastic, Dr. Kate Key. And lastly, I want to ask, what is one big piece of advice that you would give aspiring authors who want to write on topics like mental health and well being and emotional resilience?
So I would say that the biggest thing I can say is write from your heart and write about your personal stories right from the beginning of the book so that the reader can realize that they can connect with you and you have gone through that journey. Because unless you have gone through it, you cannot give out mental health advice. That is my honest opinion. And so, each person has gone through at least something, some mental health struggle. No one is all the time happy. So you can include that. You can be vulnerable in front of your readers and they can connect with you better. So, more and another thing I would like to say is that you should research on this topic before you start giving advice. And there should be a solid scientific evidence for whatever tools you're giving out. It cannot be just your personal experience, although that matters also. But when you're giving some solutions, it should have a base in science. As a doctor, I am inclined to be that way, that I rely on scientific evidence. And so at the end of the book, I've given a lot of scientific, like in the bibliography, that you can refer to if you want to explore that topic further. And if you're a self published author or a first time author, you're going to struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, I would say, because you might feel like your writing is maybe not worth reading and no one will read your book. You might feel that. But you should just believe in yourself anyway, and even though you can feel that way, and you should prevent yourself from over analyzing your book, and what that does is just postpones your publishing. So even if you don't feel that you're 100% ready, if you think your book is good enough, you should just publish it. And if you wait for it to be perfect, then that's too late, in my opinion. So you might never think that it's 100% perfect. And you must know when to stop writing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ketke. That was wonderful insight on writing and publishing. Lastly, where can our listeners find and connect with you?
You can directly message me on my Instagram at Dr. Kate P. That is one way to get a direct contact with me. And you can also email me if there's something like that, any issue.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's interview with life coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Kate Key. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.